Thank you and good afternoon. It's just about 1:13 on Tuesday, January 17th. Call the meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Harwich Affordable Housing Trust Fund to order. Roll call to my left, please.
Judith Underwood.
Donald Howell.
Joe Powers, Town Administrator and Chair.
Brendan Lowney.
And joining me to my right is our housing advocate, Brianna Nickerson. We did receive regrets from member Larry Brophy. He is under the weather and is not able to participate today. So we send our best wishes to him for a speedy recovery and getting right back on his feet. It's my understanding that we probably did not distribute the minutes in sufficient time, so we can hold that off to our next meeting, unless there's a motion to the contrary.
No, that's great.
Thank you. And then, I got my wrong notice here. Can have all the technology in the world, but there's still operator error. Then would be action plan discussion with Jen Goldson. And we had our site visits with Jen this morning. As we know, Jen's working on the action plan after a hiatus. We do have a meeting scheduled next Monday, the 23rd at 1 p.m. And Jen would be joining us on that meeting. That would have been our regularly scheduled monthly meetings to discuss her draft of the action plan, which Brianna will distribute this afternoon to all the members. Any comments, questions on that?
The site visit went really well.
Thank you. We're going to be able to do a full debrief of the site visit, in part based on what Jen's going to give us for notes plus the action plan.
I was just giving an overall, it went really well.
Yep, thank you. So then the only other business to come before us is an opportunity for a debrief. Our last meeting as a trust was December 12th, 2022. And you may recall that there was a trust meeting prior to a joint meeting with the Board of Selectmen. And so I know the Board of Selectmen will be doing a debrief from their perspective on that meeting. I just wanted to put it on the agenda for anyone here to discuss any takeaways or thoughts on that meeting, if any.
Do you have minutes from that, Joe, that you can share? I mean,
What were they, December 12th? Were they the
or
joint minutes?
summaries?
Okay. So we don't have the joint minute meetings yet. The December 12th was for the regular meeting.
Because are you speaking about that with the board this evening, or?
So the agenda topic on our agenda is similar to the board's under Old Business A.
Old business.
So that's the item that we're on now, if there was any commentary from trust members. Mr. Howell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to at least state the obvious, I mean, because I thought it was productive. There was a lot of comment, but the overriding thought is that there's a frustration that we're not moving fast enough, and I think we all agree to that. So with that as the background, it's good to hear that the action plan has a draft to it, and the site review that we can talk about in the next meeting went really well. So I think that we're actually starting to prioritize stuff in a way that we're not talking months and years. We're talking like now that we need to take action. I think there was mutual understanding with the selectmen and us that that's the deal.
Thank you. Judith?
Just any official update yet on the HDCD? HDCD, on the percentage? That was something that we discussed with
DHCD.
Thank you, DHCD.
So Ms. Nickerson, I got it right. I didn't have my coffee today, so I'm trying to catch up with my Diet Coke. I've got this. I've been mixing up names all day. I apologize. Brianna's going to do a report on her results from that that she's worked on over the past month. But
I just asked, it wasn't on the agenda, that's why. Sorry. This was the only thing.
So I don't know.
This was the third thing on the agenda. That's it.
Right, we're under Old Business A, debrief from the December 12th meeting.
Okay. And my question was, from that meeting, at that meeting, we discussed the percentages. So, yeah. just be I wouldn't have asked the question if that were on the agenda, Joe, if that makes sense.
I don't,
That she's
I'm
gonna
not saying
give
it
us a
doesn't make sense, I don't
debrief,
understand what you're saying.
that she's gonna speak.
So, why doesn't everybody go through their comments and I can make some
Okay.
comments at the end?
Yep, so that's just my question. Is there an update? Yeah. Just because in my email to you through Brianna with requests for the agenda, that was one of the things that I had requested. A
So,
written
yeah,
A written
way that I-
document, what I had requested was a written document from the organization.
I believe the directive was on stationery, similar to what was said at our meeting in December, and I remain of the same response. There is no stationery or letterhead or document that we're going to receive from DHCD in the manner in which you want it. However, the purpose of this agenda item is to have a conversation about any number of topics that were brought up, including DHCD, workforce housing, and what is moderate and low income. So this is the time to talk about that, but with regard to getting something on letterhead or stationery, there is no such thing.
So just for clarification, and somebody else chime in here if I'm not being
So I'd be more than
clear.
happy to chime in to say that my comments related to the debrief and what's happened since then is gonna touch upon a number of topics. So
Including that?
I'd be more than happy to
Okay.
talk about that.
That's great.
Thank you. Mr. Lowney, any debrief from the December 12th meeting?
No, I thought it was great that we just refreshed the properties from the 2019 town meeting, properties that were given to us, and then also the ones that we were talking about, like the Arbor House or 70 Willow Street, other properties that could, the trust could benefit from. So I thought it was good just to recap those properties.
Thank you. Anything else before I take my advantage? Okay, thank you. I remain incredibly frustrated from the output of the trust meeting on December 12th, the joint meeting with the Board of Selectmen, and I am slightly optimistic that at the board level discussion tonight, there may be some conclusions. For me, the joint meeting with the Board of Selectmen, as I was led to believe, was to put out any number of disconnects, issues, or things that have just not gone right, with the hope that there would be a conclusion on several items. You know, we talked at length about the purpose of the trust. We've reached no conclusion, I think, either at the trust level or the board level. We talked about the membership of the trust. Again, whatever was discussed December 12th, there's been no definitive action on that, and it's been a month. For me, I want to take this opportunity of debrief to state what I've tried to say and what I believe I have said, so we can argue whether or not I think I'm right in that I think I was clear. With regard to the DHCD commentary about what is low and moderate income, that was a topic that I brought before the trust soon after our community engagement forum in October, because in that community engagement, there was discussion, ample discussion from the community and participants there about so-called workforce housing. Now, somebody in my position as the chair of this body, as the town administrator, and the roles that I have in municipal government, it would be irresponsible of me to continue perpetuating the phrase workforce housing without indicating that it has no basis under statute. It is not a formal thing that exists in discussions about affordable housing. My point over the last fall remains today that Ms. Nickerson, as our housing advocate, not our affordable housing advocate, our housing advocate is charged with and able to research any level of housing, however we define that. My point remains that the trust is the only entity within the town of Harwich, based on our trust document, that cannot engage in that, as our mission is to preserve and create low and moderate income housing as defined by DHCD, and they take their definition from the Federal Housing and Urban Development Department. Ms. Anderson on the Board of Selectmen and I participated in a Selectmen's Association, not a private group or anything else, and a representative of DHCD spoke about DHCD's focus on less than 60% of AMI. The point remains that this body has to confine our actions and our discussions to that which we must accomplish. And low and moderate income housing remains defined as less than 80% in total.
80% or 60%?
Less than 80% in total.
So that differs
I
from
would
what...
like to continue without interruption if I could, please. Because my next sentence was going to be and shall be that low income is defined as less than 60% of AMI. So if we need to understand what our charge is, it is housing that is less than 80% of the area median income. Now, less than 80% would include 60. It would include any number less than 80. The point is that workforce housing, not a formal legal statutory item, far exceeds our charge. So we're not going to, when I say we, I mean staff. Ms. Nickerson is not going to spend more time than I deem it necessary for her to do so, and I'm not going to spend more time than the Board of Selectmen would deem it necessary to do so. There's not going to be a smoking gun document that says that it's 30, 60, 80. What we have is an understanding of what low and moderate income housing is as defined by DHCD that does not allow for workforce housing. So my point in the fall, my point on December 12th, and my point today remains exactly that. Whatever it is that we, the trust, are going to do, we should not be uttering the phrase workforce housing. Now that should not be construed by anybody within the sound of my voice thinking that I, Joe Powers, town administrator, or chair of this public body, has said that the town should not be concerned about that. On the contrary, I have said that the Housing Committee, Real Estate and Open Space, Community Preservation, Board of Selectmen, staff members, everybody that I see in front of me, Ms. Nickerson, everybody but the trust can focus on workforce housing, how we define it and what it means. So my debrief from December 12th was, it was incredibly frustrating and exceedingly difficult to sit through as an employee. However, I will put it out there on the record. I am very well compensated by the Board of Selectmen, and that is why I am well compensated to deal with that. But I hope that we as a town can move forward on these topics, and I would expect that this body will move forward on that topic, because it does no good to try to do the gotchas. Ms. Underwood.
The reason there was some misunderstanding on the DHCD was because in November, if you go through our meeting, look at the recording, you were talking about 40%.
30.
30%, Joe. So.
Is 30% less than 80?
You said it was capped at 30.
You said it was capped, thank
I
you.
said I believe it may be capped.
So,
That
let me finish. Let
Ms.
me
Underwood,
finish.
Ms.
I am
Underwood.
not finished speaking.
You will yield because the chair of the public body has told you to yield. And this is not going to be a back and forth between you and I,
I'm
or
trying
me
to
and any other
explain
member. I will
myself.
finish. Heavy is the head that wields the gavel of a public body.
You don't need to
The member
yell.
has to yield. The member has to yield. Do you yield?
I guess I do,
Thank you.
yes.
We are not
Can
going.
you hear me?
We are not going to do this ad infinitum. We are going to do a debrief, which we've just about finished, and we're going to move on next week to a meeting with the housing consultant to build an action plan 5 years after it should have been done, to tell us how we could move forward to preserve and create low and moderate income housing. There is no benefit from a he said, she said, and there is no benefit in the manner in which members have been communicating with staff. It ended now. So unless there's something new to add, we are not going to argue what was said before. And if there is disagreement as to whether our mission presently is to preserve and create low and moderate income housing, and low and moderate income housing is presently identified as less than 80% area median income, then we're at a crossroads.
No one is arguing that, Joe. At our meeting with the board, you were talking last time around 60%. Prior to Christmas, you were talking 30% cap. So yes, I did ask for
Ms.
clarification. Let me
Underwood,
finish.
no, I'm
I
gonna take a
asked,
point
do you want to
I'm
swing
gonna
that
gavel.
again?
I'm
Go
going to use my
ahead.
point of personal privilege.
No, I would
Under-
like to finish because you need to hear.
No, Ms. Underwood,
oh.
I am not going to sit here and be suggesting
I'm
what I
sorry
said or
about-
didn't say. I know what I said.
It's recorded, Joe. You
Then
can.
we'll go back to the recording. What is the purpose to go back to the recording for the allegations that you make when we are still 4 months later talking about workforce
Because
or no
you
workforce?
are
housing?
yelling at this board like we did. We had a very constructive discussion with the Board of
Ms. Underwood, I am
Selectmen.
frustrated
Every
with board
s-
members when I
every
receive an
single
email with the
person-
following.
Yeah?
Open meeting law violation?
Yes.
Question mark.
Question mark.
That's reckless and irresponsible for you to suggest that there's an open meeting law violation, that if you thought there was such one, you sat on it until the event occurred.
No, the meeting no, I got a
It is
note
not
Thursday
a violation
morning.
of the open meeting law. And this is the kind of behind-the-scenes nonsense that needs to stop. When we have members criticizing a staff member to another staff member,
Who's criticizing someone?
I will finish. When we have members criticizing a staff member to another staff member, when we have another member saying, I agree with that, all of this in an email trail, that is a very problematic way to operate. At 1:31 p.m. on Tuesday, January 17th, 2022, I am saying enough. We are either going to recommit ourselves to our purpose as a trust as currently dictated, or we are going to take recess and figure out through the Board of Selectmen what's going to happen next. I'm not going to go back and forth about what you think I said, what I think you said, what was written, what wasn't written. The fact remains that I have been struggling with this trust on the simple definition of workforce housing. When a member says that we can all agree that everybody's frustrated with the lack of accomplishment of the trust, I take great exception to that.
Joe, there's-
Because when I was granted the gavel in September of 2021, things started to change. The 11 properties under 6 parcels that the board before me assumed you had was never in the care, custody, and control of the trust. Yet you all operated as though it was. So I will not, for one, take the criticism that we, the trust, which has been in existence for nearly 5 years, is getting nothing done because I was not party to that. We are moving forward from this point on. I will not hear any discussion other than a debrief for December 12th. There serves no purpose to do this. This is a frustration for me that is boiling over from December 12th and prior meetings. Whether trust members agree, like it or not, the trust document declares that the town administrator shall be a member and shall be chair. That was in doubt for almost 2 years for one member's interpretation. None of this is in doubt. If you disagree with it, you take it to the Board of Selectmen as early as this evening, and you tell them what your thoughts are. In the meantime, we will not spin our wheels. We will work on our mission going forward, low and moderate income housing, creation and preservation thereof, and not discuss how members have been or do act. Unless there's anything else to come before the trust, I'd take a motion to adjourn.
I ask why Ms. Jen Goldson is not here this afternoon?
Because Ms. Golson had a scheduling conflict that she was not aware of until she arrived today. We are still relying upon our regularly scheduled meeting for her to be here next week. When I say be here, it may be in person, it may be remote. Mr. Howell?
This isn't the proudest moment of the town of Harwich. The diffusing thought here is there anyone sitting at this table who thought that workforce housing was part of the definition of what we were dealing with?
No.
Who is still trying to advocate that? Is there anyone sitting at this table who's trying to advocate that?
Yes.
Who?
People that have not
No,
recognized the
here,
discussion. Yes,
here.
Members here. The discussions that we've had.
80% is the number. It has always been the
Less
number.
than 80%.
Right. Less than 80.
So 80%.
But
is
we're
not
having
the
an
number.
argument over something we don't disagree on.
But we
is my-
have, and we did on December 12th. What is the purpose of the discussion now?
To
There's
clarify
been a
that we are
demarcation
all
in
in
time.
the.
Joe, I
We
don't
need to
think
move on.
anybody disagreed that the term workforce housing is not a legal term. It's never been a legal
didn't say
term.
it wasn't not a legal term. I said this is not a
Excuse me,
discussion
I'm
of
not
trust.
done, but people that are low and moderate income are also workforce. So be careful when you put that in the way you describe it. But no, I don't think at this board, anybody ever thought that workforce housing meant X, Y, and Z. They don't. I don't
Then we
know
would
where
move
you're
on.
getting this
But the members
information.
just said-
You're so angry
The
right
members-
now.
I'm so frustrated.
Why?
Is what because
Oh.
we have been talking for the year that I've been chair about we're gonna develop a certain parcel.
Yes.
We're gonna do 48 units. We're not gonna use HUD money. Those are irresponsible statements that have no basis in reality, yet a majority of the trust members have said it and said it at the community engagement.
There
My
are-
point remains. You just said that workforce housing still supports those people who are less than 80%. That's irresponsible.
No, I said that those
conjoins the
people
two.
are workers.
No, you said workforce, and you said workforce housing.
Low and moderate income people are workforce, as much as 80 and above.
And so how does that relate to the trusts?
I'm just saying, when you
How does
talk,
it relate to
when
the-
you say that 80 and below is not workforce housing, you need to make sure that you're not saying anybody that lives in 80% and below housing is not part of a workforce.
I've never said that, and it would be ludicrous of you to interpret my words in
That's
such
the
a
way I heard it. That's what I'm telling you. That's the way I heard
And that's part of the disconnect
it.
that I'm talking about.
That's why I'm speaking and saying, this is what I'm hearing, Joe.
We heard the community say the number one thing that the town should do is to work on workforce housing. And they said it at an Affordable Housing Trust Fund board meeting. And therefore, I took the opportunity and am still struggling to put it out there that that noble cause does not relate to our charge.
It probably would have been instructive if there had been questions for that audience as to how they envision what
So it would have
workforce
been
housing
instructive
is.
then for trust members to say what would have been instructive before the community engagement. Rather.
We didn't
not
have that
one-
opportunity.
You had several
We
opportunities.
did not.
And again,
No.
this is where I refute
There
what
was
the
no
members are
plan for
talking
that
about.
meeting. None. Zero.
There was a several months plan for that meeting.
No.
And in fact, we enjoyed the
It was,
accolades that
it was
followed the
only
meeting.
scheduled 2 weeks before the meeting.
We had talked about a community engagement forum,
And there was no plan, though. And that's why we were
and I
bringing
disagree
in,
with the assessment, Judith.
we were
And this
bringing
is what I get
in,
frustrated
we were
about.
bringing in a
This
consultant that
trust
runs
that
these
existed
kind of meetings.
For the first 4 years accomplished very little.
I disagree. I think we
And I
did some
disagree
good
that we've
work.
accomplished even less since September of 2021. Be that as it may, it still requires us as a trust to commit to that goal of preserving and creating low and moderate income housing going forward and to end these back and forth discussions.
No one is not committed to that, Joe. We've all been
And yet we
committed.
still have the discussions.
Because
Judith.
in November, you spoke about 30% and below AMI.
And in October,
and
we
I
talked
asked
about
you,
workforce
I
housing.
asked you if I could at least call if you
What
were
is-
not
So what
going
is the
to.
purpose of the member's
Because you were
suggestion?
taking that out of a chat information from a webinar. That's not okay. That is not backed up research. You should have picked up
So
the
where's
phone.
the backup research?
You should have picked up the phone as the town administrator and our chair and
I
called
will not-
DHCD
I will
for
not continue-
clarification.
I will not continue this meeting.
Clarification.
I will not continue this meeting. As a staff member of the town of Harwich. and
You're
have
yelling.
And have you
You are
impugn-
yelling.
And have you
Yelling.
impugn.
You are yelling.
And have you impugn my reputation, my integrity,
I'm
and
sorry
my
about
workability.
that.
No, you don't
could
have the right-
You could have
Judith,
called.
you will yield. You will yield. You do not have the right to commingle my professional appointment here and talk about my work performance without just process through the Board of Selectmen. It is improper. It is illegal.
So should I
It
have
is-
said
I will
as the
finish my
chair?
statement. It is unethical, and you will not continue it now. This meeting stands adjourned. We will meet again January 23rd, 2023, 1 p.m., Griffin Room.